All right, so you know that George Carlin bit about think of how stupid the average person is and realize half of them are even stupider than that?
Yeah, classic Carlin.
Well, today's deep dive is kind of inspired by this Reddit thread we found
Oh, yeah?
where people were sharing real life examples that seem to, back up Carlin's
I
observations.
can only imagine.
Buckle up, because we are going to explore some seriously facepalm-worthy moments and see what they reveal about human intelligence.
Or a lack thereof.
Exactly.
I think what I find interesting is that these anecdotes, they aren't just about laughing at others' expense, right?
Right.
They offer a glimpse into how our minds work.
Yeah.
You know how we process information?
Yeah,
How susceptible we are to misinformation, especially in today's world.
totally. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So we dove into this Reddit thread
Okay.
and found some absolute gems. We're going to unpack those stories, try to understand what might be going on in these people's heads,
Right.
and maybe learn a thing or two ourselves in the process.
Always a good thing.
Right. It's a good reminder that we all have our blind spots.
Oh, absolutely.
None of us are immune to making mistakes or misinterpreting information.
For sure.
Okay, let's jump right in.
Right.
One recurring theme we notice in a lot of these stories is the danger of taking things literally
Oh.
without considering context or critical thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Like this one eye doctor, they shared a story about a patient who stared at the sun
Oh, no.
for a whole minute,
Oh, my goodness.
convinced that it would boost their vitamin D levels.
Oh, wow.
And sadly, it ended up causing permanent eye damage.
Yeah, that's a stark reminder that in the age of, quick fixes and online echo chambers, misinformation can have some serious real-world consequences.
For sure.
That's really sad.
And this case also demonstrates how, like, a distrust of traditional medicine combined with just a desire for simple solutions can lead people down some pretty dangerous paths.
Absolutely.
And then there's this story about these in-laws who were so worried about the dangers of a solar eclipse that they kept their blinds closed all day long
Wow.
and wouldn't let their grandkids near the windows
Right,
for
right.
fear of, like, indoor sunburn.
Indoor sunburst.
I know. It's
Yeah.
almost endearing, but also kind of alarming.
It's a fascinating example of how media coverage, especially when it focuses on the sensational, can amplify fears and lead to well-intentioned but ultimately misguided actions. You know what I mean?
Totally.
They took the protect your eyes message a bit too far.
It's like they created an indoor bunker to avoid a threat that didn't even exist in their living room.
Right.
But it also makes you wonder, how do we distinguish between, credible information and hype,
Right.
especially when it comes to our health and safety?
That's a crucial question in today's world,
Mm.
Developing critical thinking skills and media literacy is essential for navigating this constant flow of information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another example of a literal interpretation gone wrong.
Right.
This one's a bit more everyday. Someone shared a story about a friend who showered in cold water for an entire year
Oof.
because they never thought to turn the other tap.
No way.
I know.
I'm curious about the psychology behind that one. Was it a lack of curiosity, a fear of experimenting, or maybe just plain stubbornness? It's a bit baffling, to say the least.
You'd think after a few freezing showers, you'd at least try turning the other knob.
Right.
Maybe it's a testament to human resilience,
Yeah.
or maybe just a case of, like, if it's not broken, don't fix it, taken to a whole new level.
Perhaps it speaks to the comfort we often find in routine, even when it's not really serving us well.
Yeah.
Change can be daunting, even when it comes to something as simple as adjusting the water temperature.
For sure.
Wow.
Speaking of things that should be simple, this next story involves technology and a bit of a cultural disconnect.
Yeah.
A chatbot user was convinced their account had been hacked because the app kept greeting them with konnichiwa, which they thought was a hacker's name.
Oh, no.
Can you believe that?
It's a humorous example, but it highlights the importance of cultural awareness in an increasingly interconnected world, right?
Hmm.
What seems obvious in one culture might be completely foreign in another.
It makes you realize how much we take for granted our own cultural context
Yes,
and how a simple misunderstanding can lead to some pretty wild conclusions.
absolutely.
All right, you ready to dive into some geography fails?
Oh, let's do it. I'm always amazed by the creative ways people misinterpret geography.
This is where things get really entertaining.
Yeah.
Imagine being a travel agent, right? And
Mhm.
having someone ask you to book a cruise from Miami to Australia overnight,
Oh,
or a cruise that departs from Arizona.
okay.
These are actual requests travel agents have shared.
Those are classics.
I know.
It seems some people have a rather loose grasp of basic geography.
Right.
Or maybe they just really, really want to believe in teleportation.
It's like they think the world is a much smaller and more magical place than it actually is.
Yeah.
But it gets even better.
Oh,
One Reddit user shared a story about a guy who couldn't find a train to Hawaii
what?
because he'd seen pictures of trains on the islands.
Oh.
And he genuinely couldn't grasp the concept of them being shipped there.
This points to a lack of spatial awareness, understanding of scale, and maybe even a bit of wishful thinking.
Right.
It's as if he believes geography should bend to his desires.
Like, if I want a train to Hawaii, there should be a train to Hawaii.
Right.
Speaking of wishful thinking and a lack of awareness,
Okay.
there's this gem from a tour guide in Banff National Park.
Oh, yeah.
A tourist was genuinely concerned that the wild animals weren't in cages for everyone's safety.
The irony is almost too much to handle.
I know, right?
It's as if they believe human safety should be prioritized above all else, even the natural habitat of wildlife.
It's a classic example of human-centric thinking, right? We sometimes forget that we're not the only ones who call this planet home.
Right.
And that sometimes for our own safety and the well-being of the ecosystem, we need to keep our distance from wild animals.
Absolutely. Respecting boundaries, both geographical and ecological, is crucial for our coexistence with nature.
Well, that's our whirlwind tour of geography fails for now.
Okay.
Get ready, because up next, we're tackling the world of science and logic.
All right, bring it on. From misplaced continents to impossible cruises, it seems like geography could be a real head-scratcher for some folks.
Okay.
But get ready, because now we're venturing into the realm of science and logic,
Ooh, exciting.
where things get even more interesting.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we've got some real gems lined up in this category.
Okay.
Let's start with this story. It's equal parts hilarious and a little bit sad.
All right.
So this college student was absolutely adamant that heart transplants should be banned
Really?
because, that's where feelings are.
Oh,
Fearing that the recipient would become like a different person.
interesting.
It really highlights how, personal beliefs and cultural narratives, especially those that are deeply ingrained,
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes just totally cloud our understanding of scientific concepts. The heart, it's long held this symbolic meaning, right, as the seat of emotions, and it's really interesting to see how that cultural understanding can clash with medical science.
Yeah, it's almost like they were thinking about the heart in like a poetic sense,
Yeah.
rather than a biological one.
Totally.
It's a reminder that science and culture don't always see eye to eye.
Right.
But then we have this other story where someone was absolutely convinced that all animals could reproduce with each other,
What?
citing sickly puppies as evidence of some sort of canine-rat hybrid.
Oh, my goodness.
Yow.
This one makes me wonder about the role of observation and critical thinking and how we understand the world, right?
Right.
It's so easy to jump to conclusions based on these, superficial similarities.
Yeah.
But a deeper understanding of biology, genetics, species compatibility reveals just how flawed that logic is.
It's like they completely skipped over like the whole concept of DNA and chromosomes.
Yeah.
Went straight to they both have 4 legs, so they must be able to breed.
Yeah.
Speaking of jumping to conclusions,
Okay.
let's talk about the coworker who thought drinking Diet Coke would magically lead to weight loss.
Oh, the power of marketing and wishful thinking.
No.
This example perfectly illustrates how we can be swayed by, clever branding and our desire for these quick fixes,
Yeah.
even when it defies basic logic and scientific evidence.
It's like, forget exercise and a balanced diet. Just give me a can of that 0-calorie soda and watch the pounds melt away.
Yeah, right.
It's a reminder to always read the label and be wary of claims that sound too good to be true.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is so essential, especially when it comes to health and wellness claims.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears to education for a moment.
Okay.
We came across a story from a 6th grade teacher about a parent who was utterly baffled by the concept of X in algebra.
Oh, no.
They just couldn't grasp why its value seemed to change with every problem.
Okay, algebra can be challenging, but this one made me wonder about, like, the foundations of math education. Like, if the concept of a variable is that confusing for an adult, it raises questions about how we're teaching these fundamental concepts.
It speaks to the importance of clear explanations and building that strong foundation in mathematical thinking
Yeah.
from an early age.
Yeah.
Without that foundation, it just becomes much harder to grasp those more complex mathematical concepts later on.
It's like trying to build a house without a solid foundation.
Yeah.
You might be able to get it to stand for a while,
Right.
but
Yeah.
eventually it's going to crumble.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's end this segment on a lighter note
Okay.
with a story that had us both shaking our heads in disbelief.
Right.
This woman genuinely thought that sneezing only involved the nose.
Wow.
It's one of those things we take for granted, like breathing or blinking. It's a reflex. It's an involuntary action.
Right.
It seems almost impossible to not experience that full-body expulsion of air that comes with a sneeze.
Right. You would think.
I know, right? It's like, have you never felt that, like, forceful burst of air coming out of your mouth? Maybe she just has, like, incredibly powerful nasal passages. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, ready to explore the wild world of logic and misplaced confidence.
Lead the way.
Yeah.
This is where we really get to see how people's thought processes, or lack thereof, can lead to some truly bewildering situations.
Let's start by giving a shout out to all the 911 operators out there.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Apparently, a big part of their job is dealing with people who seem to have completely missed the memo on what constitutes an emergency.
I can imagine.
Like, one operator shared stories of people calling 911 to ask about Walmart's hours or complain about not getting enough mayo on their burger.
Oh, come on.
I know!
It highlights this disconnect between personal inconvenience and genuine emergencies.
Yeah.
It suggests a lack of awareness about, what 911 is actually for,
Right.
the types of situations that warrant immediate police, fire, or medical assistance.
It's like, folks, 911 is for life or death situations, not for condiment complaints.
Yeah.
Save those for Yelp or Twitter, please.
Exactly.
And speaking of situations that don't require emergency intervention, we have a collection of DMV stories that are both hilarious and a little scary.
Oh, DMV stories. Always a good time.
One person witnessed a guy fail his eye test without glasses
Of course.
and then get angry when told he had to come back with them.
Oh, wow.
Another saw someone automatically fail the written test for using their phone despite being explicitly warned beforehand.
It's baffling, isn't it?
Yeah.
These anecdotes really underscore the importance of following instructions and, understanding the consequences of our actions.
Right.
Rules exist for a reason,
Yeah.
and ignoring them can have some real repercussions.
It's like they're intentionally trying to sabotage themselves. You'd think they'd want to make the process as smooth as possible.
Right.
But instead, they choose to ignore the rules
Yeah.
and then get upset when things don't go their way.
Perhaps it's a sense of entitlement or a belief that, they are somehow exempt from the rules that apply to everyone else.
Yeah.
But speaking of consequences, let's talk about the grocery store customer who yelled at the cashier for putting their eggs in a separate bag,
Oh, no.
claiming they didn't want extra bags,
Uh-oh.
and then proceeded to place a pound of flour on top of the eggs in their own bag.
Oh, the irony.
I know, right?
You can almost hear the sound of those eggs cracking under the weight of that flour.
This is a perfect example of how a lack of foresight and consideration can lead to unintended and, in this case, messy results.
Right.
It's a reminder to think things through,
Yeah.
to consider the potential consequences of our actions,
Yeah.
and maybe just let the cashier do their job.
Exactly. Sometimes it's best to just trust the experts.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is a doozy.
All right.
Imagine working at a Renaissance festival
there?
and getting nearly arrested for paying with perfectly legal $2 bills and gold dollar coins.
Are you serious?
I know, this story is truly disheartening.
It reveals a lack of awareness of basic currency
Right.
and a willingness to jump to accusations without, proper verification.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder about the level of trust and understanding we have in our own monetary system.
I know, it's like, have you never seen a $2 bill before? Do they not teach about currency in school anymore?
Right.
A quick Google search would have saved everyone involved a lot of trouble.
Sometimes it seems like common sense isn't as common as we'd like to believe.
Well said. Okay, we're going to end this segment with a story that's both funny and carries a serious message.
Okay.
It involves an infantryman who was tasked with trimming hedges.
Okay.
And instead of using hedge trimmers, he decided a lawnmower would be more efficient.
This anecdote highlights the importance of using the right tool for the job,
Right.
and understanding the limitations of those tools.
Yeah.
It also underscores the need for clear instructions and safety protocols, especially in environments where mistakes can have some serious consequences.
It's a good reminder that even seemingly simple tasks can be dangerous if approached carelessly.
Exactly. A lawnmower is not a hedge trimmer. And using it as such is not only inefficient, but potentially hazardous,
Right.
It's important to respect the intended use of tools and follow safety guidelines to avoid accidents.
I think we've explored enough facepalm moments for one episode, don't you?
We certainly have.
From staring at the sun to mistaking a lawnmower for a hedge trimmer, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We certainly have, but it's been an enlightening journey, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it has
We've
that.
laughed, we've cringed, and maybe we've even learned a thing or two about ourselves along the way.
Absolutely. But what does it all mean? Are these just isolated incidents or do they point to a larger trend? Are we as a society becoming less intelligent?
Yeah, it's a question that's been on my mind, as we've been going through these stories. Are we really getting less intelligent? Or are we just more exposed to the consequences of these lapses in judgment because of the internet?
Yeah, that's a complex question.
And there's no easy answer. I think it's important to remember that these anecdotes, while entertaining, they represent a very small sample of human behavior.
Right.
It's not necessarily indicative of a widespread decline in intelligence,
Okay.
but it does highlight the importance of critical thinking, media literacy, and a solid foundation in basic science and logic.
So it's not about like pointing fingers and saying, look how dumb these people are.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we all have room for improvement when it comes to thinking critically
Right.
and questioning the information that we encounter.
Precisely. It's about fostering this culture of intellectual curiosity,
Yeah.
where we're not afraid to, ask questions, challenge assumptions, and admit when we just don't know something.
Right.
And it's about promoting access to quality education that equips people with the tools to navigate a world that's increasingly saturated with information.
It's like we need to develop this healthy skepticism without becoming cynical or jaded.
Right.
It's a fine line to walk, but it's crucial for navigating the complexities of the modern world.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between, questioning everything, but also being open to new information and perspectives.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the sometimes baffling, sometimes hilarious world of human intelligence,
Yes.
we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit us.
What seeming obvious piece of knowledge do you think others often miss?
Ooh,
Think about it.
yeah.
It could be something related to science, history, culture, geography, or even everyday life.
Yeah, anything.
What's that one thing you encounter where you think, how do people not know this?
Right.
Share it with your friends, family, or colleagues.
Yeah.
Spark a conversation.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, learning is a journey we take together, right?
It is. We're all in this together.
And who knows, maybe by sharing our knowledge and experiences, we can help each other avoid those facepalm moments and make the world a slightly less baffling and slightly more informed place.
Now, that is a goal worth striving for.
Right. Until next time, keep those minds sharp and don't forget to question everything.
Absolutely.